It's extraordinary.
We wanted independence.
There was no hatred, there was no dispute, and there was no...
No one was really ready for it.
Hindus in India sheltered Muslims, and Muslims in Pakistan sheltered Hindus.
That we in India...
And that was a great reason why this all happened.
The British arrived in India in the 1600s when the British East India Company began to establish trading posts for the buying and selling of things like cotton, silk and tea. The East India Company came to rule large areas of India with its own enormous private armies, largely made up of Indian soldiers, paid to do the will of the British. In 1857, regiments of the company's army, Indian soldiers, rebelled against the British authorities. There were many reasons, including resentment against some of the ways Britain was ruling India, but it appears to have been triggered by the use in the army of bullet cartridges greased in animal fat, which would have been considered unclean for Hindus and Muslims. After a brutal war on both sides, India came under direct British rule. The rule of the country was transferred from the British East India Company to Queen Victoria, who some years later became known as the Empress of India. This began the period known as the Raj, meaning to rule or kingdom in Hindi. At the time, around 20,000 officials and troops ruled over a population of some 300 million people. The lives of white British colonialists and the Indian people were completely separate, in schools, on public transport, and in social clubs. 3 generations of Mrs. Hazel Hooper's family lived in India. Her grandfather had gone to Madras in the south in the 1800s to spread Christianity. He stayed for 60 years. Her father was a lawyer in India.
I always felt we shouldn't be living there. It wasn't our country, it was your country. And I longed for all the Indians to come to the clubs.
Not all British people in India felt the same. Miss Dobinson recalls life in India in the 1920s and 30s. Her father was in the British Indian Army, in the King's Royal Rifles. She remembers visiting Lucknow many years after the landmark uprising against the East India Company in 1857, and seeing a palace that had been there at the time of the rebellion.
A tower there which had been badly damaged. It always looked at me as though it had just been sliced off, and the Union Jack would fly there as it did on all public buildings. But unlike any other public building where the flag is lowered at sundown, that flag was never lowered. That was just to remind them that we were still there, and remind them of our sovereignty. Somebody once said, she said, "It makes you feel very British, doesn't it?" And of course, at that time, we did feel very British.
When asked how the Indians felt about that, she responded,
In a strange sort of way, I think they accepted it, because even then the British were revered in a great many ways, and we didn't ill-treat and exploit them like some people imagine we did. We didn't. We looked after them. If ever you did have to leave any of them behind, they would be in tears, and all the blessings they could call down upon you, from their various gods and so on. It's all very moving.
Amrajit Kaur recalls British rule differently.
The feeling of being second-class citizens in one's own country. There were 2 societies in India. One was the British society, which we had nothing to do with. There was no interaction at all. And even in the schools that one went to, I mean, their children never went to the same schools that we did. Like traveling in a train, for instance. We never traveled first class because, there might be a problem.
This feeling of being a second-class citizen led to resentment.
We had no anger against the British. They ruled fair, but they ruled. That somebody else should rule over you was wrong.
There was also unhappiness at the way the British ruled, including laws that curbed civil freedoms. It provoked anger, and strikes were held in protest. In Punjab, authorities banned public meetings. In Jallianwala Bagh, Amritsar, in 1919, hundreds gathered, many to mark a religious festival. British troops fired on an unarmed crowd, killing hundreds. Many in India were horrified. There were critics too in Britain. Many historians argue it was an important moment on the road to India gaining independence. In response to British rule and growing nationalist feeling, the Indian National Congress, which was founded in 1885, called for more rights for the Indian population. The Muslim League, founded in the early 20th century, had been formed to protect the rights of the Muslim minority in India. These two political parties would in time be important in calling for independence and shaping the future of British India.